Zaraxis never meant to start a seminar on killing humans. Honestly, it wasn't even on his long, nerdy list of ambitions. Interstellar diplomacy? Sure. Interspecies academic honors? Absolutely. But planning human extermination strategies? Not really his thing. Yet somehow, today, that was going to change. The door to his dorm creaked open. Standing in the frame was a creature unlike any Zaraxis had seen up close. Pale yellow fur atop its head, upright posture, and a body that looked disturbingly rigid for a biped. Zaraxis blinked. "What are you, and what are you doing in my room?" The creature stepped inside casually. "Oh, didn't the school tell you? You've got a new roommate. I'm Vince. Human. Male. 16. Nice to meet you. Human." The word echoed like a death knell through Zaraxis's mind. "Human?" he repeated, his voice almost a whisper. "Yeah. Earth. Third planet in the Sol system," Vince said with a shrug, as if that explained everything. It did. Horrifyingly so. Zaraxis's translucent, gelatinous body rippled with visible tremors. His organs churned beneath his skin. He remembered the classification, Category 15 Deathworlder. His school had just assigned him a Deathworlder as a roommate. His life was over. Deathworlders were monsters. Brutes. Every one of them who attended this interspecies school seemed to treat him like prey. Mocked him. Bullied him. Enraged by the fact that here, brute strength meant nothing, not compared to academic excellence, and he was 2 years away from the best interstellar university in the quadrant. And now this thing was moving in. Zaraxis looked Vince up and down again and nearly collapsed. There was something about the human, something beyond physical strength. It was the vibe. That primal, dangerous calm that made every one of his instincts scream run. No. Nope. Absolutely not. Not in a million star cycles. Zaraxis panicked. "This is unacceptable," he screeched, reaching for his data crystal. "I refuse to." Vince raised a hand, trying to calm him. "Wait, just listen." "Stay back," Zaraxis cried, stumbling over his own desk chair. His gelatinous fingers fumbled frantically over the crystal interface. "Principal Sahaza, this is Zaraxis. There's been a catastrophic error with my room assignment." Vince stepped forward again, arms up. "I'm not here to hurt you. Can we just talk?" "A Category 15 Deathworlder," Zaraxis wailed. "In my room! I demand immediate reassignment, or I'm withdrawing from the program." The hallway outside erupted with footsteps. Heavy. Fast. The doors slid open, and the air in the room seemed to still. Principal Sahaza entered, a tall Vryer, with no eyes on her face. Instead, her sight came from two long, delicate antennae that moved independently, now swiveling toward both students. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of stars. "What is going on here?" Zaraxis launched into a desperate explanation. "Principal, they've assigned me a Category 15 Deather. This has to be some kind of mistake." Vince tried to interject. "I was just introducing myself, but he kinda. This was my idea," Principal Sahaza said smoothly. "To fix what's broken in this school." She turned one antenna toward Vince. "You're not just here to learn. You're here to change things. The bullies, the segregation, the fear, it all ends now." Her other antenna pointed to Zaraxis. "I didn't expect such a strong reaction from you, Zaraxis." His organs rippled again. "It's not, it's just that my past experiences have been." She didn't need to hear the rest. The silence was enough. "I'll make you an offer," she said. "Share the room for one night. Just one. Tomorrow, if you still object, I'll reassign you." Zaraxis hesitated. But he knew better than to argue with the principal, not when she was offering him an escape hatch. "One night," he said. The principal nodded once and left. The silence she left behind was dense as neutronium. Zaraxis didn't look at Vince. He just started gathering his scattered books and supplies. I'll sleep in the library, he muttered. Vince's voice followed him. Hey, if you've had bad experiences with other Deathworlders, I get it. I don't want to make things worse. It's okay. Zaraxis paused, just for a second, then left without another word. As Vince turned to leave the dorm, crossing the threshold with quiet steps, something in Zaraxis's voice broke the silence. Where are you going? He asked before he could stop himself. Vince paused, glanced back, and said, If someone's sleeping in the library tonight, it should be me. And then he was gone. Zaraxis stood alone, surrounded by books, datapads, and a strange, uncomfortable feeling churning in his transparent chest. Not fear. Not exactly guilt either. Something unfamiliar. The next day, everything should have gone back to normal. But normal was nowhere to be found. Zaraxis sat stiffly in the front row of xenobiology class, surrounded by his usual group, herbivorous non-Deathworlders with a shared love for academics and a shared fear of everything else. He clutched his datapad like a life raft, trying to ignore the tremors still rippling through his body from last night. He noticed Vince the second he entered the room, draped in a hooded garment, face partially hidden. To most, he looked like a skin-shedding species going through a molting phase. Completely unremarkable. But Zaraxis knew better. What he didn't expect was where Vince had chosen to sit. The Deathworlder section. That cursed back corner of the classroom where the carnivores and high-gravity predators liked to gather, and worse still, Vince was sitting right next to Mizara. Mizara, the black-furred feline who led the same group that regularly tormented Zaraxis in the halls. So that was it. The human had shown his true colors. He was one of them. Zaraxis felt the sliver of goodwill he nurtured the night before snap like dry twine. He stared at his datapad, brain buzzing. His heart was pounding, not with fear, but something darker. Resentment. A need to prove something. Then the room shifted. Students scurried to their seats in a sudden rush. That could mean only one thing. Mr. Hack had arrived. He floated into the room with his usual liquid grace. Pale blue skin, silver braid down his back, and eyes like galaxies compressed into almond shapes. He didn't need to raise his voice. When Mr. Hack entered, silence followed like a loyal shadow. "Settle down, class," he said, placing his materials on the table. He didn't even glance at the hooded human sitting among the Deathworlders. But Zaraxis did. He looked at Vince, then raised his hand. "Mr. Hack," he began smoothly, wearing the calm of someone who knew they were the smartest in the room. "I have a theoretical question, something that might help us better understand today's topic." Mr. Hack turned toward him, intrigued. "Go on, Zaraxis." "In a purely academic scenario," Zaraxis said, his voice sweet as nectar, "how would one go about killing a human, given their physiology as Category 15 Deathworlders?" The air went dead still. Even the classroom lights seemed to dim. Zaraxis kept his gaze casual, angled just enough to catch the Deathworlder section from the corner of his eye, hoping, waiting for a reaction. Mr. Hack, unaware of the human in their midst, nodded thoughtfully. "An insightful question. Since there are no humans present, we can address this freely." He began to pace slowly, voice calm, scholarly, even as the words turned sinister. "Humans are paradoxical. Physically robust, yet biologically vulnerable. Their oxygen dependency is severe. Cut off airflow, and they fail quickly. Their bones are surprisingly fragile. Joint structures exposed. A precise strike to the throat or diaphragm could incapacitate them. Some species might exploit neuropressure points, others might resort to chemical disruption." Zaraxis watched Vince carefully. No reaction. Not even a twitch. "Fine. He'd just have to go further, Mr. Hack." Zaraxis continued, still perfectly polite. "Perhaps we should host a collaborative seminar? Each species could contribute their theoretical method for neutralizing a rogue human. A comparative xenobiological analysis." A few students chuckled. Several perked up. Mr. Hack hesitated. "I don't think that's an appropriate direction for this." That's a fantastic idea, said Caller, a fellow herbivore in Xeraxis' circle. Really forward-thinking, Xeraxis. Totally educational, added another. He's always raising the bar. Mr. Hack looked around, students nodding, encouraging, urging the conversation forward. Very well, he said reluctantly. But we'll keep this theoretical. Species containment protocols only. Hands shot up. And the descent began. One by one, students stood and offered methods, disturbingly detailed methods, for killing or disabling humans. My species could use claw precision. Go straight for the throat, said Mizara, flicking her tail with a smirk. I heard their necks are really soft. Kazur, a fur-covered brute from a high-gravity world, bared his teeth. We just crush them. If that doesn't work, force-feed them into submission. Laughter. Applause. Another student suggested venom-tipped darts. One claimed advanced weaponry. A scaled Vera offered bite-based evisceration. Even psychological warfare made it into the mix. Humans depend too much on sight. One whispered. Shut down their visual input. Break their minds. The room pulsed with energy. Mr. Hack stood rigid, clearly disturbed at how fast the thought experiment had become something else. Xeraxis didn't hear any of it. He was locked onto the figure in the back row. Hooded. Silent. Still no reaction. No flinch. No frown. No anger. No fear. Vince just sat there, letting every grotesque theory about killing his kind wash over him. Like static noise. And that unsettled Xeraxis more than any Deathworlder ever had. How could anyone stay that calm? Mr. Hack's voice finally cut through the uneasy buzz. I think that's quite enough of this theoretical exercise, he said sharply, his graceful demeanor showing its first real crack. Let's return to our actual curriculum. But just as silence settled across the room, the hooded figure stood up. Every pair of eyes turned toward him. The figure reached up slowly, deliberately, and pulled back his hood. Pale skin. Forward-facing eyes. That unmistakable patch of yellow hair. Xeraxis recognized it instantly. The human. The one from the night before. The human, Vince, scanned the room slowly, letting his gaze rest on each face. When his eyes met Xeraxis, it was like time froze. There was no anger. No fear. Just calm, measured confidence. And then he turned to Mr. Hack. Actually, Vince said, his voice carrying through the silence like a dagger in silk. None of those methods would work. You couldn't kill a human that way. The classroom exploded. Gasps. Chairs scraping. One herbivore bolted out of their seat entirely. Even some of the Deathworlders looked unsettled. No one had expected their theoretical target to stand up and speak. Mr. Hack's silver hair shimmered slightly as his long ears flipped side to side in panic. For the first time, ever, his calm voice cracked. Actually, he stumbled over the words. But Xeraxis couldn't stop staring. It wasn't the reveal that shocked him. It was how unshaken Vince was. They just spent 15 minutes talking about how to kill his species, and he looked like he just overheard someone read a weather report. I'm human, Vince said, hands calmly folded behind his back. Vince. From Earth. Third planet in the Sol system. Like I mentioned yesterday, to a certain roommate. Xeraxis' stomach coiled in on itself. But how? Mr. Hack sputtered, struggling to regain control. No human has ever been admitted here. The safety protocols alone, Category 15 Deathworlders are off limits. Principal Zahaza made arrangements. Vince replied. She figured it was time for some changes. This is irregular. Highly irregular. I wasn't informed of any human enrollment. Panic now bled into the teacher's voice. The safety concerns. I'm not here to hurt anyone. Vince interrupted, calm and direct. I'm here to learn. Like everyone else. But the curriculum, the seating, the dietary compatibility, none of this was designed with humans in mind. Vince gave a small shrug. I'll sit wherever works. I brought my own food. As for the curriculum, I think I'm already learning a lot about interspecies diplomacy. Mr. Hack's eyes scanned the class, lingering on the students who had offered up their creative suggestions, and then finally locked on Zaraxis. Then, without another word, he activated his calm implant. Zaraxis could only hear one side of the conversation, but it was enough. Principal Zahaza? It's Mr. Hack. We have a situation. Yes, he claims to be human. Yes, he does match the physiology, but... A pause. Then, a longer one. You intentionally didn't inform me? Another pause. The social experiment? An even longer silence followed. Yes, I understand. Yes. Yes, I'll make the announcement. When Mr. Hack lowered his hand, he looked like someone who had just watched the ground vanish beneath his feet. Class, he said hoarsely, it appears we do have a human student. This is Vince. He's been officially enrolled by the principal herself. Vince stepped forward and gave a casual wave. Hey everyone. Nice to meet you, officially. Then, turning towards Zaraxis for a split second, Vince's gaze sharpened and softened again, almost amused. I know this is probably weird, but I'm looking forward to learning with you all. Then he turned, his voice friendly, but laced with that subtle edge. Mizara, right? He said, nodding to the black-furred feline. You mentioned claws to the neck. Thing is, human necks are wrapped in muscle and bone. Pretty thick stuff. And we've got solid reflexes. We tend to protect the important parts. Your claws? They'd get stuck in the muscle before hitting anything vital. Mizara's ears pinned flat against her skull. She didn't respond. And Kazur? Vince turned to the tall Zarier. Repeated beatings? Not the best approach. We get stronger under stress. It's called an adrenaline response. More you hit us, the more we adapt. You just make us more dangerous. Kazur's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. Vince smiled faintly. Good creativity, though. Then he addressed the spindly, pale student who suggested poison. Poison projectiles? Creative. But humans have millennia of experience with toxins. We've got internal systems to resist a lot of poisons, and external protocols to treat the rest. Honestly, we're kind of famous for not dying from stuff that should kill us. Then came the student who mentioned superior weaponry. Technology? You might be surprised. We've been at war with ourselves for most of history. Our ingenuity's battle-tested. To the scaled Verer, who mentioned biting. Our skin's tougher than it looks. Heals quick. And if you bite us, well, we'll bite you back. Our teeth don't look like much, but they'll break bone if we have to. The next student had mentioned sensory overload. Good try. Vince nodded. But humans evolved as persistence hunters. We're built to adapt. You can't outlast us. Trust me, we don't stop. And then, finally, psychological warfare. That one might work, Vince admitted. Depending on the human. We're definitely vulnerable to mental stress, but you'd better hope we don't get angry. Because angry humans? He let the words hang for a beat. Not a single alien's seen that yet. His tone never shifted. Calm. Educational. Like a TA correcting a study group, not addressing a literal alien think tank on human extinction. Then, as if nothing had happened, Vince walked back to the Deathworlder section, and sat next to Mizara. Mr. Hack stood frozen at the front of the room, gripping the edge of his desk like it might save him from drowning. And for a moment, silence. Then, like a dam breaking, questions. Wait, do humans really fight each other constantly? Is it true your planet has multiple climates? How do you handle the gravity difference? Doesn't everything feel too light here? Even Mizara leaned in, curiosity flickering behind her bright eyes. You said humans bite back. Do you actually use your teeth as weapons? Another voice chimed in from the center rows, scaled and cautious. What's this persistent hunting thing? That sounds terrifying. Before Vince could even answer, he was already surrounded. Students leaned in, curious eyes wide, ears perked, jaws slightly open. Deathworlders and herbivores alike fascinated. Vince just smiled. Well, yeah, he said casually. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. Not ideal, but it did make us pretty good at surviving. That grin never wavered. And Earth? We've got everything. Frozen wastelands, blistering deserts, dense jungles, all jammed together. Sometimes only a few hundred kilometers apart. A soft gasp from a student in the back. How does any species survive that? We don't really. Ben shrugged. We just make tools. Build clothes. Invent stuff. It's kind of our thing. And the questions kept coming. One after another. Genuine, eager curiosity. Zaraxus sat frozen in his seat. Watching as the same students who once mocked and feared Deathworlders leaned in closer. Even Kazur, the hulking Zarier known for violence over vocabulary, asked a question. So when you said we'd make you more dangerous, what happens during this adrenaline thing? Vince didn't miss a beat. Heart rate spikes. Pain response drops. Reflexes go up. Strength too, like accessing backup reserves. Emergency survival mode. Helps us do what we need to do when we have to do it. Kazur blinked all four of his eyes. Slowly. That's actually impressive. A few students nodded in agreement. One even gave a slow whistle. Zaraxus felt his stomach twist. His translucent body quivered with, was it dread? Or something uglier? Jealousy. This wasn't supposed to happen. The human was supposed to snap. Get angry. Prove his monstrous nature. Maybe lash out, show the danger Deathworlders posed. But instead, Vince was charming. Honest. Even funny. He looked at Mr. Hack. The teacher still hadn't moved. Still clutching the edge of his desk. His expression was unreadable. Was he relieved the class hadn't imploded? Or just stunned that he had lost control? Then someone asked another question. Is it true humans can eat basically anything? Within reason. Vince chuckled. We're omnivores. Meat, plants, you name it. Though don't let the myths fool you. Plenty of stuff out there still kills us. The matter-of-fact tone drew more laughter. Not fear. Not suspicion. Just interest. And as the chronometer finally beeped, signaling dismissal, Zaraxus felt the tremor in his limbs spread. He packed slowly. Hands unsteady. Transparent organs fluttering beneath his skin. And when he stepped into the hallway, he instantly regretted it. Near the lockers, a group had gathered. Kazur. Mizara. The Scaled Bearer. And of course, Vince. Zaraxus froze. Too late. They turned toward him, sensing his presence before he even made a sound. Kazur's grin curled. Well, look who wandered in. Mizara's ears twitched forward. Our favorite academic. So curious about how to kill humans. How sweet of him to drop by. The Vera bared her teeth. Maybe he's here to volunteer for a live demonstration. Zaraxus felt his organ seize. Kazur stepped forward. Come on over, Zaraxus. That faux-friendly tone. The kind that always came before bruises. Against his better judgment, Zaraxus approached. In a flash, Kazur's arms shot out, slamming him against the wall. His gelatinous feet dangled in the air. This was it. Now the human would laugh. Maybe offer a creative suggestion of his own. That was what Deathworlders did, right? But Vince? Vince strolled over, hands in his pockets. I don't get it, he said, voice calm but sharp. What's the fun in picking on him? He's clearly not built for this. Kazur blinked. It's just roughhousing. Builds character. Yeah, Bizarra added, smugly. Toughens him up. Makes him stronger. Vince nodded thoughtfully. Totally. Roughhousing does build character. A pause. Then his eyes locked on Kazur. So let's try it. Outside. With me instead. The air changed. Kazur stared at him. Then slowly, Asterisk asterisk very slowly. Asterisk asterisk lowered Zaraxus back down. The Vera took a step back. Mizara looked away, her confident smirk suddenly gone. Kazua grumbled, "Not worth it." And the group walked off. Zaraxus stood there stunned, blinking, heart hammering. He looked up at Vince. "Why?" he asked. "Why did you save me?" Then shrugged, that small smile still on his lips. "Because I could." Zaraxus narrowed his eyes. "This isn't some trick, is it? You're not planning to beat me up later?" Vince actually laughed. "You're really overthinking this." A long pause. Then, from deep in his chest, Zaraxus said something he never imagined himself saying. "I'm sorry. For everything." Vince just nodded. "It's fine. The room thing? Zahaza gave me another. Class was fun, honestly. Learned a lot. But tomorrow?" Zaraxus asked, still wary. Vince slung his bag over one shoulder. "Tomorrow's just another chance to learn," he said. "You'll be fine. Trust me." And then, he walked away. Zaraxus didn't move. Not for a long time. For the first time since enrolling at the Galactic School. He wondered if he'd been wrong about Deathworlders. At least about this one.